Hello, student athletes and families. I'm your superintendent, Dr. Carlton D. Jenkins. I want to acknowledge the loss and sadness you are feeling with the postponement of your winter season. Thank you for all your sacrifice to ensure the health of our community, fellow athletes, families, and friends. We truly are at our best, our strongest when we work as a team. We know that athletics are so much bigger than wins and losses. It is about the lessons learned and people we become through adversity. It is about the memories we make and the relationships we form. I ask that you continue this virtually. Reach out and support your teammates. Hold each other accountable. Be the leaders off the field that you would be on the field. Remember, we are all in this together. The situation we find ourselves in is not ideal. It is not what we are used to. Seize the opportunity that's in front of you. Continue your pursuit of excellence at home. Keep engaged in virtual learning. Play catch with a sibling. Go for a run around the neighborhood. Bump a volleyball against the wall or shoot hoops in the park or driveway. Hold out hope. We will get back to in-person activities as soon as it is safe to do so. I would like to pass this video off to District Athletic Director Jeremy Slitz with this quote. It comes from none other than rapper Ice Cube. Sports, even at its best, is never any more perfect than the rest of the world. But if once in a generation or so, sports throws us up a glimpse of ourselves at our best, well, that's enough for me.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. I really appreciate that and getting a little more to know about you. And I really appreciate the support that you do have for education-based athletics and its partnership that we have as part of our educational experience. And also, thanks for giving me the opportunity to celebrate the passing of our capital referendum. I'm so excited what that means for our athletics community and appreciate the support in our community for providing us with the opportunity to upgrade our facilities and really provide a wonderful space for our student athletes in our community to both train and compete and share in larger group activities when we're able to return safely. I really look forward to that process. Excellent quote there from Ice Cube as we look at our vision and the importance, and this is obviously a generational or 100 years experience that we're working through, and it's not an easy one. And beyond the COVID pandemic and also trying to work through the racial pandemic that we're experiencing, I really appreciate the work that all of our coaches, student athletes, and families are doing to help really support the mission of MMSD Athletics to provide an equitable opportunity and supporting our district's vision really for all students and recognizing athletics playing an integral role in our community building and the identity of our schools. This has been really tough. These almost 8 months where we haven't had the opportunity to join together around a court or field or pool as part of our regular experience. And I do think, to that point, we're still developing a lot of those things, even though we aren't physically together, around accountability and finding new ways to do that for each other, and innovation and perseverance, and really developing our capacity for resilience. And ultimately, our purpose is, these unique educational experiences, and we're really finding, and I want to thank our coaches and all of the people that have really found innovative ways to stay connected through athletics in these unique times. And we are definitely teaching through athletics, maybe not the skills of athletics right now, but truly teaching and supporting our students through that. So I do want to thank all of you, and I want to publicly thank our staff and coaches that have been doing a great job of finding ways. And really what we're here is to talk a little bit about what we can do, as things have kind of progressed, and talk then eventually a little bit about our winter sports model. So all of our programs are allowed some virtual contact at this point. Our traditional fall sports, which will be happening in the alternate fall WIA season, and our spring sports have up to 15 contact days where they can do sports-specific training up until their season dates actually do begin. Our winter coaches have up to 5 days where they can do those same things as well. And actually at this point, I'm still advocating with the WIA to get an expansion and a little bit more flexibility around some winter sports accommodations as we work through the situation that we're at for our district and in our county. And, no matter what, we talk about these sports specific ones, we're always able throughout the year to offer our general options. And I know we're doing a great and innovative way of approaching some speed and strength, mental health and leadership, along with social justice opportunities through the athletics framework as an extracurricular. And that'll continue to happen. And that's available to all. And, I think this is another way where we can maybe get some more people engaged and exposed to the athletic offerings and the sense of community that helps build. So I think I'm really here today to focus a little bit on winter, but also, what that sports-specific contact can and will be. And I think when we think of sports-specific contact, that really is when we're doing things that are giving and providing feedback or coaching that are sports-specific to either skill or scheme. That may be live Zoom or providing feedback on video or things along those lines when we talk about it in a virtual way. And hopefully eventually if we're able to get back together at some point in small groups or even larger groups, the sports specific stuff is not an open gym. It's a time when our coaches are able to instruct outside of the traditional season dates. So I really do appreciate the flexibility that's been offered, and we're working with our coaches to figure out ways to access that, to do that, and to provide those things to help kind of make up for some of those times where we've been helping protect our community by not gathering. So in terms of the winter sports framework, we have determined, with our schooling model that we won't have any in-sport coaching during that virtual school model here in second quarter. And with that, what does that mean for our winter athletes? Well, that means that our official season start date for our winter sports is going to be January 25th. We're doing that to make sure that we provide as much flexibility for the individual and not restrict their ability to be eligible to participate in high school sports. That does mean there is not the restriction that I know some people have talked about with the waiver to do some non-school things. Our season has not started, so there are no restrictions on activities that our students do. But I will stress, in no way do we support or encourage doing any activities where you're gathering with people outside of your home. And that's been a consistent tenet at the state, national, and county level, that the way that we're going to help us all get back into school is if we don't continue to have gatherings outside of our home. So I do encourage you to really look at the Public Health Madison-Dane County guidelines. I know DHS from the state of Wisconsin has a risk assessment tool. And please, we ask you that you make safe decisions to help support our community as we go through that. But what that does mean is, what are we doing until January 25th from a winter sports standpoint? Well, we have the 5 contact days that the WI is allowed. And as I mentioned before, we are looking at expanding that accommodation to help support our winter coaches, to have some more opportunities virtually to help get our students ready. So when we are able to get back in person, we can do that in a safe manner. And we do have those 5 days that we'll ask them to do. But beyond that, we are going to commit to 3 to 5 hours weekly for all of our winter athletes that opt into winter athletics, which will have no fee, but you do need to complete the online forms of a deliverable. And whether that's a check-in, a workout they either do in person or something that's posted for them to do on their own, definitely 1 to 2 hours of a live virtual connection. And that could be around team building, but it could also be that sports specific contact day. Met with our coaches yesterday and talked about some ways that they can do it. And I think one of the great things about having 4 high schools together is that we get an opportunity to collaborate, share ideas, and find ways that work, because recognizing our 4 unique high schools have 4 different ways that they may approach some things. Definitely the shared through line that we're kind of looking at right now is, how do we do this well and do it together? So when we do get the opportunity to come back in person, we're all ready and ready to go. And I look forward to that day when we can get back to doing that. So that winter sports framework, you're going to get some definite direction from your program's coach. Again, I really need you to sign up on those online forms so we make sure that all that are interested get that opportunity to be connected with their head coach of their program and get provided those opportunities that we're going to offer here up until January 25th. And then at January 25th, it's really going to be, as we'll reevaluate and see what's needed. I appreciate the feedback we've gotten over the summer and fall opportunities that have been offered. And I think we've really got a wonderful opportunity to do some things outside of just checking the next box for the next practice or getting to the next game, to focus not only on our physical development, but our mental health and our leadership competencies as well. And, in that time, we put together with the Big Eight, we're working on some return to play protocols. We're working as a group of Dane County athletic directors in conjunction with public health to find ways to, when we are able to return back in person, how to do it safely, how to make sure we get those communications out there, and then how to, make sure that what we're doing is in the best interest of the entire community to make sure that we can keep our students back in schools and not have disruptions from that whipsaw action that sometimes happens as we see some of the other districts that have gone back and have regular disruption to their educational opportunities. So I think that's enough from hearing from just me. And I know I don't have the same obvious musical acumen as Dr. Jenkins, but my rap quote, I can transition to the next stop, is we're going to stop, collaborate, and listen. And I'm looking forward to bringing in some other people to that discussion. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate you joining us today. And I'm looking forward to hearing some feedback from all of our athletic directors, and they all have a coach that they brought along with them to join our panel. At this time, if we can go around and introduce ourselves and let us know who's on the panel.
Hi, my name is TJ Ragnas. I'm the athletic director at East High School.
I'm Jeremy Thornton. I'm the head football coach at Madison East High School.
I'm Tim Rockhold. I'm the athletic director at La Follette High School.
Scott Swanson, head football coach at La Follette.
Jeremy Schlitz, I'm both your district athletic director, but also the athletic director at Madison Memorial.
I'm Marcus Flowers, head girls basketball coach at Memorial High School.
Alicia Pelton, athletic director at Madison West.
Amanda Elmaker, I'm the head coach of the girls swim team at West.
Great, thanks all for being here. And we just talked a little bit about that update we had for winter sports. So I think I want to open up to this group. Are there questions on winter sports and really general athletics from anybody on the panel?
I had a question about eligibility and non-school activities until January 25th.
Yeah, so looking at that from a WI consideration, students aren't restricted until the student begins practice for their season as determined by the school. So at this point, we wouldn't have any way to restrict student activities prior to January 25th when we return and begin our seasons officially, whether that's virtual or in person. I do really recommend for all of our students and families out there to limit your travel and make sure you're making safe and well-informed decisions to help us make sure we can all get back in person. Public Health Madison-Dane County has a great resource for best practices both for athletics, but also in general for gatherings and groupings.
I have a question too. I think the main thing that's on a lot of people's minds is why are we not playing and other districts and other areas not too far away from us are planning on and are currently playing?
Yeah, I think that's the most frustrating for all of us. And I think, the answer there is we're very lucky in having a very well-funded and informed public health department that can provide really direct science and advice related to epidemiology and best practices to keep our communities healthy. And I don't know exactly what's happening in other areas, but I do know that all are trying to kind of do that, and there just hasn't been that statewide consistency, which definitely adds to the frustration. We also are dealing with a different type of district. As you look at the kind of concentration of some of our populations, along with the obviously clear additional effect it's having on people of color in terms of the way that the virus is affecting those populations. And we really want to make sure that we're focused on the entire community at large. And our mission as an athletic department is obviously following teamwork and making some sacrifice. And we need to do that not just within our teams, but also in the community at large. So we felt as a partner with both our schools and our community, it was important that we restricted gatherings and activities that bring the connectivity around for all of our families and for our students.
Hey, Jeremy, you talked about the plan starting January 25th. If we are back in school in some form or fashion, Is there a plan if we kind of determine that we need to go virtual for third quarter?
Yeah, I think we'll definitely have an update, by mid-December on what we're looking to do to make sure people can make informed plans. But I think the idea is we're going to try to maximize what we can do. And first and foremost, we want to be able to meet our students' needs educationally. And if we can do that in small groups, and if we can do that in larger groups, we want to expand that to being able to do that for our student athletes as well. If we are virtual, we may look at some possible ways that we can get connected in different ways. And if we are in person, or if we're in cohorts, or if we're in different models, we're going to make a way to find out, how we can get athletics as part of what that schooling model would be. All right, I do want to jump to some of our panelists, and I know, all of you that are here because I'm familiar that you've done some really great work already, as we've kind of worked through these past, 7-8 months of newness and difference and difficulty. And I wanted to kind of look at some of the other ways that we're engaging our students. So I'm going to turn it over to Coach Flowers. Maybe if you can talk a little bit about some of the things you've done with our student athletes at Memorial related to social justice and leadership.
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity. So at Memorial, around the events around the death of George Floyd, Jeremy and I were kind of putting our heads together on some things that we could do for our student athletes who needed a space to process the things that were going on in our community and communities across the country. And so we developed a platform to engage with our student athletes focused on having conversations around issues of social justice, with the idea that we were helping our students not only process but develop action steps that they could take as individuals and we could take as a collective. It has been a great opportunity to connect with students across different sports, build community. We meet as a large group twice bi-weekly. Every 2 weeks we meet as a large group, and then the week in between we meet in affinity spaces where we meet based upon how students identify racially, ethnically, and we have a little bit more intimate conversations around things that are going on. It's been a great way to process not only the racial awakening within our country, but also being able to process how our student athletes are managing and handling themselves during this time away from sport, while also providing them some tools to be leaders, encourage their teammates and their peers to address their mental health needs in positive ways, and to stay connected with one another, share strategies. So it's been a great touch point for us to be able to communicate with our student athletes, not only around, their intense feelings around the racial injustice in our community, society, in our country, but also how they're handling the pandemic, how they're managing their mental health, and how they're supporting each other and building that community amongst our student athletes.
Thanks, Coach. Any questions from the panel about either that program or something Marcus might be able to shed some light on for things that we could use across the district?
Yeah, Marcus, quick question for you. One, I'm glad you're doing that work over there and supporting your student athletes. But more importantly, how are your numbers in terms of students actually coming to the program and entering the Zoom universe and engaging the work?
Yeah, I think for us, our numbers have been very solid. We're usually around 15 to 20 kids in our large group, and then in our affinity spaces, between 5 to 8 kids in our affinity spaces. And so I think for us, what helped us kind of really get a lot of kids is we kind of struck while the iron was hot, for lack of a better term. When there was a high need, we offered something and we got kids engaged. And from there, we've been able to kind of continue the engagement with our student athletes. And so we have probably a core group of about 10 to 12 kids who are consistently there regularly. And then we have kids who come in, as their schedules allow them to.
Coach, were the kids that are joining the program, were they like invited personally, or was it a wide open to everyone and you just put it out to your community for everyone, or were they chosen specifically?
We put it out to coaches of our athletic teams at Memorial, and they identified student athletes who they had reached out. So we had the coaches reach out to their team and say, hey, this is an opportunity our athletic department is offering. Who's interested? And then those names were given to me. And then we reached out to those students and kind of connected them with the opportunity we were offering.
Thanks for sharing, Coach. Appreciate that. I hope that helps some of us look at other ways and things that we can be doing. Along those lines, Tim, over at La Follette, I know you guys have been doing a lot of work on collaboration at different levels and some online resources and things like that. If you can maybe share a little bit about what's going on over there as Lancers.
Okay. On the district level, I think one of the best examples for collaboration is our Big 8 channel that we have on YouTube. We have a leadership series that attempts to serve the whole student. Every Tuesday at 6 p.m., we release an episode, whether it's a live or it's a pre-recorded, dealing with athletics, but not just athletics, but all aspects of life, goal setting, dealing with diversity, self and others, social justice, engagement and success, nutrition, topics that will be coming up as well because it goes through the next 4 or 5 weeks. Goal setting again, working together, cooperation, recruitment process, building confidence in our student athletes. But this is something that every athlete can use, but it's also something that every student could possibly use as well. So we're encouraging everybody to look at those. We have speakers from Wisconsin University System, state of Wisconsin officials, and even Wisconsin-born successful athletes, NBA and professional volleyball for 2 specific examples. District-wide, the athletic directors are probably as cooperative as we've ever been in the fact that we're contemplating and revising decisions, recommending next steps, schedules that are being recommended and changed. Obviously, according to recommendations of the state and community departments, Wisconsin Athletic Association and MMSD board and administrators. We look at all scenarios and provide the input that that we're asked for, and we support the superintendent and the school board going forward. We meet and discuss operations and areas to improve in as well. So a constant improvement of our processes as we return back to play. But Mr. Swanson has a lot of information about how we're cooperating as well on the district level.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. This pandemic has offered us new opportunities to provide strength and conditioning to our student athletes. And one way that we've been collaborating is us and Madison West have been using the same online platform to deliver our strength and conditioning to our student athletes. And in the collaboration, not only saves money, but also expands our idea base to try and offer the best resources possible to our student athletes at this time.
How about Lancer specific? How does that affect Lancer specific as well?
Sure. So one of the best things that I think has come of this for me personally is just a chance to meet with the other coaches on a weekly basis with coaches meetings that you, Tim, lead twice a week, actually, most of the time. The sharing of ideas and how to keep our student athletes engaged, how to find the positive in this tough situation has been helpful to me as a coach, and hopefully helpful to see more engagement from our student athletes, because we are hearing of the best ideas from fellow coaches as to what's going to work best to help our student athletes right now.
Yeah, that also brings a point that, as Scott was talking, we're looking at developing a Google Classroom platform where all sports will be able to eventually highlight or show different clips or different aspects of their sport and kind of build up the excitement and the the knowledge of each sport and maybe pique some interest and get people excited about coming and doing and seeing athletic events that they normally would not have. So,
Any questions on that for the group from La Follette?
Question. How's your turnout rate been with trying to engage some of your student athletes?
Yeah, I mean, it's been good. I don't know the exact number of what we have, but the response from the people who are engaged, who are following it, you know, it's a daily plan that gets sent to them. They've been excited about it. It's challenging, but I think it's a really good spot for them to continue working out without being able to, you know, head to a gym or a weight room and things like that.
speak a little bit more on that, would you, Scott, as far as how the program was built to on the equity lens?
Sure. The program that there's lots and lots of exercises available on this on the Team Builder app that we've been using. However, we've been using a kind of almost a prepackaged no equipment body weight exercises to accommodate for the majority of us who don't have weight systems at home. And so everything we send out to our student athletes is all they really need is just some open space. And they can get their daily workout in to keep improving and to be ready when we can get back to practices and competition.
Great, thank you. We've talked a little bit about the physical, and obviously a huge component of what we're all trying to work through, in our different ways is also around our mental health and those types of things that are definitely weighing on all of us. Alicia, I know you guys have put together a bunch of wonderful things over at West to share with the students and find ways to do connections. Would you mind sharing some of what's going on over there?
Sure. To start off with, I've tried to update our website where we have athlete education and we have a whole section on mental health, different resources, but also like apps, the Calm app, some of the other apps that athletes and examples of professional athletes and other athletes that use that and how it impacts their play, whether they're in the middle of a pandemic or not. So I really stressing that as a whole athlete to really develop the mental health side to stay performance ready and get through as a student athlete is very difficult, right? As with focus and sleep and eating and other practices. So I brought Coach Elmaker, who is our head girls swim coach, and she also is the assistant boys swim coach. And she's done some really great things in the past couple of years with the mental health of her athletes, as it's a high demanding sport. And Amanda, can you tell us a little bit on how you focus on mental health on a yearly basis with your athletes?
Yeah, so I guess especially thinking about our regular season and reflecting on last year and previous years, during this time, the mental game, I guess, of swimming is really important because the final meets and everyone's tapering. And I think just thinking about the student athletes as a whole, they're stressed with school, with workouts, with the end of the season, any personal stress or outside conflict that they may have. So I guess as a coach, I try during this time to facilitate team meetings as a whole and just kind of talk about how everyone's feeling and not push aside those stressors, but acknowledge them. And I guess last year specifically, I remember having a conversation about this and just truly having the athletes be real with each other and share how they're feeling. And I remember the conversation started to evolve. I thought I was the only one that was feeling these stresses, and it's really helpful to have a team supporting you. And I guess also thinking about our team, the culture and the community is really strong on our girls swim team. But I think that's almost making it more hard right now, that they can't be together, that they can't be practicing, that they don't have their season. And they're watching teams across the state practice, and they're starting to, like, these teams are starting to have conference and sectionals, and hope the plan is to have a state meet in 3 weeks. So knowing how much they really appreciate their high school season and their team and being with each other, I think this is even harder right now. And I guess personally as a coach, it's really hard for me to not be with my team and I don't have any in-person or any way to really reach out to them. So I guess right now I've been trying to be as creative as I can. I've definitely leaned a lot on our captains. We've had a few Zoom meetings, just kind of checking in and seeing how they're feeling. And I guess still having those conversations about how are you feeling mentally, like what's hard and challenging, and again being real with them in a completely different context now. Like, how can I support you virtually and in a way? And I think also my captains have really wanted to lead their team and however they can. Like, it's their senior year, like they've always wanted to be a captain, and now they have this opportunity, but they can't really do what they've seen previous captains do. So I guess, like I said, I have to owe a lot of credit to them. Like, they've been really creative on ways that they can check in on their team and support their team when we don't get to see each other every day.
Can you talk a little bit about like how you did Spirit Week and how you give back to the community during this time as well, to kind of build that engagement, to try to include those freshmen that are coming in that don't have a connection yet?
Yeah, I think so. One thing that the captains thought of, I think another big thing about our team and our culture is dress up days whenever they have a meet. And they, of course, they had the whole schedule created for the season. So, and homecoming was a week or two ago. So they had like a virtual dress up to share pictures of them in their yellow and blue. And they kind of had it was like voting on their social media, on their Instagram, and just trying to get ways to like keep the spirit alive. They've also wanted to do like reaching out to freshmen and checking in on them and kind of sharing. I think that's the hardest part for the captains. And that's kind of something we talk about, is like these freshmen don't understand how great it is to be a part of this team because they haven't had that experience of practicing each morning and each afternoon and weekly or 2 meets a week. So the captains have been trying to do things for the freshmen to keep them a part of the team and help them feel a part of it when they haven't really experienced the team. Yeah.
I think it's great. So yeah, we've been really working on and trying to do as much as we can to get engagement and build community, whether it's giving back to the community and doing some type of, raking leaves, anything they can give back, and then they kind of share with their team to say, hey, we're still involved, we're still engaged in the community, and trying to build that sense of involvement and engagement. So it's been challenging, as we all work. I mean, even the coaches struggle with mental health and what's going on. So trying to work through all that has been really challenging. But I think the more we can do and try to recognize and be honest and transparent and acknowledging our own issues and that it's hard, I think we've been doing a pretty good job doing that. And I really like to thank Coach Elmaker for that.
Thank you both for sharing. Any additional questions from our group? So we've talked a little bit about physical and mental health, and obviously with the student athlete component, how are we doing some things to support, the academics, especially as we're all learning together what virtual learning looks like. And I know there's some really good stuff going on over at East. TJ, if you want to kind of first give us an idea of the importance related to eligibility and kind of what we need to make sure we're taking care of. So when we do get hopefully back in season January 25th, we're ready. But then also some things that as an athletic department, you guys are doing to support academics.
Well, I'm happy to. And I thought it was interesting, as we're talking about, the mental health of the student athletes and how our administrations and coaches are trying to keep kids from checking out. It is a temptation for our students when they're in a virtual setting. It's easy, unfortunately, to check out, and it does take some mental discipline and toughness to grind it out. And hopefully part of the incentive to grind it out is the idea that athletics, sports are coming back. Knowing that sports are coming back, we do need to keep in mind that, academics are going to be an important role, play an important role if in whether you're eligible to come back when we actually get back on the courts. Virtual school is real school, and the results that you get in your virtual school as a student are real results and will have real consequences for when we are back out competing and practicing. And any opportunity to just try to help academically with our student athletes is one that we take very seriously. And I do want, when we have an audience like this, to just kind of quickly run back over the idea of what are consequences within the athletic code that we all share, all 4 high schools share. If, that temptation is too much to overcome to check out. The fact is that, if you have, as a student athlete, a non-passing grade at the end of first semester, you're going to miss at least one contest. You're not going to be eligible to play. It could potentially cost you more than one, depending on whether it falls within the first 10 school days of when grades are reported. That's something important to remember. That's just one non-passing grade. If you have 2, you'll miss, every contest that occurs within the first 15 school days after grades are out. Real consequences. This could be several contests that you're not able to participate in when you, aren't able to put the student part of student athlete in front of you. Now, recognizing that specifically amongst our fall coaches who are currently, undergoing a season that isn't. It's never been this way before. Our coaches are used to, in the fall, seeing our athletes in the fall. And Coach Thornton, our head football coach over at East, has traditionally done a very, very good job of engaging academically and providing supports, and has expanded on those during this fall season, recognizing that the temptation to check out or to not take it as serious as it really is a real challenge for our athletes. So, Coach Thornton, I don't want to steal any of your thunder. I'm happy to let you talk, and I'd love to hear, just come up, let everyone else know what your initial philosophy was on the academic side of student athlete and what supports you built into your program with that in mind.
I think first and foremost, the vision of my athletic director, TJ Rognus, has allowed me to do some of these things, but more importantly, just thinking about the academic side of things. I don't want student athletes in my program or at East in general just to be eligible. I want them to be successful beyond just being eligible for the next game, but to be successful as a student athlete. And that was my mindset coming to East almost 4 years ago. It's how do I put students in the driver's seat of their athletic career, knowing that some of them potentially want to go on to play collegiate sports or football. And some of the things that I put into place really require the support of community advocates and programs. And one I'll name today is just the Goodman Center. They have done a fantastic job supporting our academic needs for the program that we run at East for student athletes. We have a comprehensive study table that meets twice a week virtually on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4:15 to 5:15. If we were in a normal setting, we'd meet 3 times a week. And students are required to show up, check in, complete their work, and grab a snack and head out to practice. In the virtual setting, obviously that's a little different, but the same principles apply. We ask students to show up right on time at 4:15 check in through a Google Docs system, and then we break them into breakout sessions with tutors in core classes or content areas where students need support. But we've also tried to take it up a notch and reached out to several guest speakers in the community, but also nationally. We recently just had Melissa Sorgen, who is running for the state Senate. She's an East alum, and we had a great conversation just about voting. So it's more than just academics. It's providing an opportunity for the students to gain a overall perspective of where they stand in their community, how they can support themselves academically, and how they can just grow their own brand. And I think it's very advantageous to our coaches, so it gives them an opportunity to stay involved, our parents or guardians, as well as our students. We've seen a lot of success in this virtual setting. We've had up to 68 student athletes show up for study table. And we're just very excited about the overall numbers, but also the academic success we're seeing from our students. And I think it's only room to grow, and it's a model that is successful for various reasons, but more importantly, it's just the support of my coaches and my athletic department.
Do you see any reason that it couldn't be duplicated in other programs or at other schools?
I think this model can definitely take legs and run, and it can be produced at all of our high schools in Madison. It's just a matter of the commitment level that an athletic program is willing to invest, and that takes the support of teachers as well as guardians in the community, and you can make it work. It's not a matter of if students can do it, it's a matter of how we provide opportunities for them. And that's what we've been able to do, and students have risen to the occasion.
I also wanted to point out, you had mentioned earlier 4:15 is a start time, and if we were in season or if we were in person, 4:15 would still be the time, even though that's a traditional, that's when practice starts, is at 4:15.
Correct. Knowing that we're not in, the early 50s when most of our coaches were, staff members in their buildings, I've had to be very creative in start times for different programs that we have, and study table giving students an opportunity to just disconnect from their school day and then start something different. I think it's advantageous to our coaching staff, but also the culture we have as a football program. Students show up at 4:15, and yes, I was very intentional in that time frame, knowing that when we start school up, they'll just be ready to rock, and then ending at 5:15, knowing they would head to the weight room, get their lift in, and then head to their respective breakout groups for positional purposes. So it's very intentional, but I think more importantly, it's what I experienced at the collegiate level playing sports is if you're a student athlete, you're going to a study table after class or before practice, and you are essentially training your mind and your body to take on that schedule. And I'm just trying to model that for my student athletes and for Madison East High School.
I have a question for you, Coach Thornton, which I commend you on all the work you're doing. When you first started the program, how did you find the tutors? Is that through school or the Goodman Community Center? And how was the buy-in from the families and the student athletes?
I think that's the beautiful part, and I'm always going to, shout out my coaches for supporting. It is mandatory for our coaches to reach out every Friday via call, email, or text message to our student athletes. To check in with guardians as well as the athlete themselves, just to encourage them to attend study table, but more importantly, to get whatever grades they need up. So that's one layer, but also more importantly, the tutors were found through UW's program. I don't recall it right off hand, but we also worked with Goodman to help support that. So knowing that on the west side, UW is right down the street, there is a pool of candidates that would be ready to support any academic depending on what school you're at.
Thanks, everybody. It was great to get this snapshot of things that are kind of happening around, and I know all of us are really dealing with the loss of what we really want and what we're all passionate about. And I really want to appreciate the reframing that everybody, not just on this panel, but across the district, has done from an athletic standpoint of using this as an opportunity to innovate, to reflect on some things, to do some different types of work within the athletic department kind of framework. But also I'm really been really encouraged, and it's been wonderful to see the collaboration and just this snapshot we just got just recently, to be able to share some of these best practices at different schools and how we're responding to this in different ways. I hope those of you that are kind of joining us and watching from afar, I want you to know this isn't the only stuff that's been going on, but it's a great example of all of us working together across the district to support our student athletes. And before I kind of transition into things we can do after high school and some things for our 11th and 12th graders and their families, any last kind of thoughts or questions from our panel? We'll go around the same way we started, but we'll go in reverse to make it difficult. So Amanda, it starts with you.
I don't have any questions right now. It was really interesting listening to everyone and kind of getting some perspectives from other schools, not just West.
Yeah, I will say to everyone's watching, we've at the athletic directors of the 4 high schools and the Big 8, we've been really trying to work together and be creative to work within the parameters we've been given. And some of our schools have different parameters, so we've had to come up with different ways to do things. But it's been great, and the district has been very supportive. So I don't really have any questions individually for anyone, but I would say that we are doing our best, and we're really conscious about the things that we're doing to help our student athletes get through this time.
And kind of indicative of the way we are working right now, I know Marcus had to leave to join a different meeting via Zoom, and I do want to also just talk a little bit about how grateful I am for all the feedback we've gotten, not only from the coaches but from the student athletes and the parents, and how we can try to figure out new and innovative ways to work through what is nothing we want, but we're going to still make sure a way that we definitely are going to sharpen our resiliency skills as we work through these difficult times.
I'd say last message from me would be to the student athletes. If you need something, reach out. The adults in this district are itching to help in any way possible, and that's from your admin, your ADs, your coaches, your teachers, your aides in the classroom. Just please reach out if you need help, and we will do everything in our power to get that help and support to you.
I think it was refreshing the fact that that I opened with collaboration, and every point that we talked about after that were things that we were actually collaborating with. So it's we're in this together, and don't look for the silver lining in the cloud. Look for the breaks in the clouds, because things will get better, and we will be back to play sooner and be ready when we are back to play.
I always tell my student athletes, and I know the district feels the same, is just, although we have downtime, this is an opportunity to reinvent who we are and provide more opportunities for our student athletes to be successful. And I just want all of you to know we're doing our best to support, but also provide better opportunities for our athletes to shine and do something great in Madison.
Well, there's no tougher place to go than last, because all the good ideas have already been used. I just think it's an honor to be a part of trying to do something a brand new way, building off successes of what we're learning, and learning from things that maybe didn't quite work as well. It's been I've been, like I said, I've been honored to have been entrusted with this work. And I know that everybody that, from a coach's staff, admin staff, athletic directors, everyone else is putting their very best into all of this for all the student athletes, knowing that the student athletes are putting their very best into it too. And it all starts with them. And we, I think, universally have been overwhelmed by their attitude and their resilience through all of this. So that's I commend them as well.
Thanks, and thanks to all of you that joined us here on the panel. I hope those of you watching got a little bit of insight into what's going on, and And I just ask that we all do our part as individuals to hopefully we can all come back and put ourselves together in a meeting and in a space where we can re-get those physical space connections and get all of our students back to the kind of desired state that we have. I encourage all of you, to make sure you're following those public health guidelines. Be safe out there, take care of each other. I know your school is here to help take care of you. The last thing we're going to transition to here, Tyler Kastner, who works with our student services department and with our athletic department around some of the things related to both NCAA and other opportunities beyond high school, is going to present something for our 11th and 12th graders and their families around some collegiate info and also just a general COVID update. He did something for the 9th and 10th graders through our Big 8 Leadership Series earlier this year. This is going to be something that he's going to put out for the 11th and 12th graders. And next week, Tuesday, at 6 o'clock, he'll be hosting a question and answer for any families that have questions related to opportunities beyond high school and what you need to be doing as a high school student to get ready for that. So that'll be our next thing. And thanks all. I wish you the best. Be well and stay well.
Hi everyone, I'd like to welcome you to the Game Plan for College Athletics presentation. My name is Tyler Kastner and I work currently with Madison Metropolitan School District as a NCAA or college athlete advisor. And I work mainly with student athletes in high school. I also work with school counselors, athletic directors, and coaches on just the various tasks that you have to achieve to be eligible for college athletics. So what we'll talk about today in this presentation is just some kind of basic rules and guidelines governing what you should be doing to reach your potential to get to college, and if you want to play, what those tasks will be. And then also we're going to talk about the different COVID rules that have changed kind of the different requirements for each level of college athletics. Okay, so we'll get started with the presentation. First and foremost, what each of you need to be doing, basically, as a junior or senior, you need to be making a realistic plan. And this starts right now. You don't have a lot of time to make up if you're a senior, but it's good to have a game plan. So what we'll be talking about is kind of what goals or questions you need to be asking yourself to achieve college admissions. That is the first and foremost step that you have to play college athletics. You have to get into a college. So some of the things you need to be looking at are how are you going to fill out your college applications? Which ones do you fill out first? How do you go about filling each of these applications out? Is it on the Common App? Is it something that you would do for an HBCU Common App? Are those the different types of applications that are available? So which ones are you going to do first? And then when and how are you going to submit your FAFSA? All right. So in October, it is always open. And so you need to decide how you're going to get your documentation for that, how you're going to fill it out quickly and early. And then also, when will you complete those supplemental college essays? Because there are colleges that require 2 to 3 essays, and you need to make sure that you are planning for when you're going to write those, have those edited by a teacher, and then make sure that you're submitting those on time as well with your application. Okay, so these are some things for college admissions. The next thing, because you are all athletes, you need to have some sort of executable plan to achieve the tasks related to college athletics, all right? So in addition to gaining admission to the college, you also have to think about when you're going to register with the appropriate organization. Are you being recruited by a Division I or II school? Well, that means when are you going to register for the NCAA Eligibility Center? All right. Or are you being recruited by a Division III school, which means you just have to get in college admissions there? Or NAIA. NAIA does have their own website of eligibility. And so you have to understand that when am I going to register for the NAIA website and submit all my documentation? All right. Next, you have to look at when will you submit the transcripts, your official transcripts to NCAA or NAIA. So do you do that after junior year? Do you do it at the beginning of senior year? You need to come up with that game plan and figure out when those times are available to you that you're going to submit those requests to your registrar or your school counselor to submit to these different organizations. All right. How many times will you take the ACT or SAT? And when do you submit your scores to NCAA or NAIA? We'll talk about this a little bit later, that it has changed for current seniors. with regards to testing. And I know colleges are currently looking at eliminating the standardized test score for requirements. But if there are colleges on your list that do require this, you need to know how many times you're going to take it, when you're going to take it, and then how to submit those scores to NCAA and NAIA. All right, and then when do you talk to your school counselor about tracking progress for academic requirements to make sure you will achieve initial eligibility? So in addition to graduation, you need to talk to your school counselor about when, am I taking the appropriate courses to qualify for NCAA Division I, or am I qualifying for Division II? All right. NAIA has their own specific rules. They don't require specific courses to be taken, but Division I and Division II schools do. So if you're looking at that, you need to talk to somebody in that area of expertise that can help you with that. All right. Those are the kind of questions you need to start asking yourself and create some sort of, plan to achieve those goals. All right. One thing to remember is that even though we're in COVID and the, online courses have changed the way that we do things, you need to make sure that all of your grades matter to be considered for admission and scholarships. This is both in regards to college athletics, but also for college admissions. All right. Even though you may have only pass fail grades, they still matter. Okay. Colleges are taking those into consideration. So you need to be taking the most rigorous coursework for your skill set. That doesn't mean that everyone should be taking AP classes. It means that take the toughest courses that you think will challenge you to get you to where you need to be. And that doesn't mean, you have to take advanced placement or AP. It means you could be taking honors or you could be taking regular. Whatever your skill set is, figure out the most rigorous coursework. That's going to challenge yourself, and that's going to show colleges that you're willing to take harder courses to improve yourself academically. All right. Pass-fail courses will count towards NCAA Division I and II eligibility, and they're based upon need. And what I mean by that is because of COVID, a lot of school districts are going pass-fail. With pass-fail, it means that if you are going for a Division I scholarship or even Division II, a pass will count as a 2.3 for Division I or a 2.2 for Division II. That's GPA. For core courses, if your overall course GPA is a 2.3 or 2.2, or if your overall GPA is below that. Okay, so again, it's kind of hard to explain through a quick presentation here, but if you need the grade and you have a pass on your report card, what will happen is, or your transcript, what will happen is the pass will count as a 2.3 GPA to help your eligibility for Division I, or a 2.2 to help your eligibility for Division II. If your GPA is higher than 2.3 or 2.2, the pass will just count as a pass. It will not count against your GPA, but it will count towards the amount of courses you need for NCAA eligibility. All right. The next thing you should be doing past grades is advocating for yourself. And this is something that you will be able to do on your own. You will need some help in certain areas, but a lot of it you can do yourself. So the first thing and foremost is you need to figure out which schools interest you and do some research on every school and athletic program that you are interested in, okay? Ask your high school coach or athletic director for contacts and advice on how to reach out to colleges. Your high school coach and athletic director have contacts at these colleges, and they can help you reach out to them. So you already have an introductory, or you have an in with those college coaches. Reach out to them. They also have advice, really good advice on how to kind of navigate the whole recruiting process. All right. So what you should be doing in your meantime, while you're in COVID and there's not much else to do, right, beyond certain schoolwork, what you should do is start crafting an introductory personal email to the athletic programs that you are interested in. This is a great way to introduce yourself. It's a great way to get on their radar, and you want to be on their list. So my suggestion, and this is just my suggestion, is do not mass email college coaches. Make sure your introductory email is personal. Okay, if you want to leave like the bulk or the middle of your introductory email the same, that's fine. But make sure that you're making these specific to each athletic program so that college coaches know that you did the research and you did kind of, a little bit of hard work to get to that point where you understand their program. Okay, what should you include in your subject heading of your email? All right, remember, college coaches are super busy. And so what you need to do is make sure that you give them your name, your sport, your position, your graduation year. Those are main things. So you would put, like, example, Tyler Kastner, men's basketball position point guard, graduation year will be 2021. Okay. They need to know what you're doing and like kind of who you are with a quick little informational. All right. You want to capture the coach's attention and give them an idea of who you are because they don't have a lot of time. So the subject heading will catch their attention and you'll want to put that in there. Okay. You can also include maybe like one stat or two that you're really proud of, like, average 15 points a game, or I had a 4-to-1 turnover assisted turnover ratio, something like that. Okay. What should be included in the main body of your email is a quick introductory statement about the school's program. You want to make this personal to the coach. Show the coach you've done your research on their school and be specific. All right. So if they went 10-2 last year, you want to make sure that you include that with like a congratulations, saw that you guys were 10-2, made the playoffs, went to the semifinals. Like, that's great. I would love to be a part of that program. Just a quick introductory statement. It doesn't need to be any more than like 2 sentences, 3 sentences, somewhere in there. All right. Then the next paragraph area should include your important information. All right. Which is include a few important stats, accomplishments, awards, links to highlight videos, etc. All right. Include your personal achievements in that section. Okay. And then you want to end your email with a statement about playing for their team or looking forward to hearing from you. You want to make sure that you're reaching out to them and letting them know that this is something you're interested in and that you're really inspired to play for their team or program, because you want to show them that you're willing to go out on a limb and do all the research and make sure that you want to be a part of their college or program. Okay. All right. What should be included in the salutation of the email? So the ending, where you put like, look forward to hearing from you, coach, comma, Tyler Kastner. You want to put your name, definite contact information that you're comfortable with, something that you're okay with. If it is your phone number or email, I would use preferably an email, personal one, one that is professional. You want to use something like your name, so like tylerkastner@gmail.com, something like that. You also want to make sure that you're not giving out personal information that you're uncomfortable with a coach seeing. All right. You also want to include your school grade and graduation year. Anytime you can repeat information, the coach gets an idea of who you are and what you have. All right. And then number 4 is links to highlight videos or web recruiting services. All right. So when I say here is make sure those accounts are clean and look professional. Coaches will research you and they will know what is out there on social media. So please make sure that you have a clean profile. If that's on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, anything like that, you want to make sure it's professional and it doesn't have anything that you would be embarrassed to have on there. And also with highlight videos, you want to make them professional, short, concise, but have packed information about who you are and how you play your sport. Okay. The testing exceptions for each level are for seniors. NCAA Division I and II right now are not considering standardized testing in their initial eligibility COVID-19 waiver. All right, for seniors that are enrolling in 21 and 22. Juniors, we're going to have to wait and see if they require a later test in the spring. NCAA will come out and update their information periodically, so that you'll have to kind of wait and see on that. NAIA is allowing students who fail to satisfy the standardized test score, composite of an 18 on the ACT, to achieve eligibility by maintaining a 2.0 GPA in the high school and earn a 2.0 cumulative GPA prior to their next season of competition. Okay? All right, with that said, planning for COVID, this is a great time to contact coaches since most sports are at a standstill. The fact that there are canceled sports all over the place, you should basically be working toward your emails, introductory emails, getting highlight tapes, set up, and make sure that you are sending these emails to the coaches and researching the schools that you're interested in. All right. Coaches have time to review them. This is a perfect time to do that. Okay. What I also want to make you aware of is make sure that you're keeping all of your options on the table. Okay. Don't take anything for granted and don't take anything away. Because what is happening with COVID is that they're basically sports are being canceled, programs are being cut by different colleges and universities. So you want to make sure that you don't tell someone no without having a backup plan for that specific school or something else that you can go to. You need to have an option available behind that. All right, and then consider the team makeup when deciding upon where to play. The team is going to be a really important thing. Because of COVID. NCAA and NAIA are making exceptions for waivers for students, and what that means is that they need to basically you need to take the team dynamic into consideration, because seniors and juniors are being allowed an extra year of eligibility. And so you may expect that you're going to get recruited by a certain team, but because the senior and junior are being allowed to play an extra season, they may stay for an extra year, and that may cut your scholarship in half. It may cut your scholarship, fully, or that college may just allow you to come in and play for full ride scholarship anyway. But you need to make sure that you're considering the team makeup of whatever school you're looking at. All right, and then lastly, scholarship opportunities are going to be limited due to financial constraints during COVID. All right, revenue is down for a lot of college sports. You need to make sure that you're giving yourself, an opportunity to look at the financial availability of colleges and what they can offer you to play college athletics. So make sure you're keeping, again, those programs on your list that are available to give you those opportunities, and don't cut any school short because you think they're not a viable option. All right. So I want to thank you guys for joining me in the presentation. I hope you got something out of it. I know it was a lot of information, and look forward to doing it again. Thank you. Bye.